During Lars's talk, you've seen that nice area chart with the contributions, and you've seen that one color was for Intel. Well, here's the guy who is that one color, and also here's the guy who actually produces that chart. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm bringing you Thiago Macieira.
Thank you. Is this thing on? Yes, I can hear my own voice echoing back from the back of the room. I have to thank QtDD for giving me the big room here and thinking I would have, actually scaring me into thinking I was giving a keynote because you gave me the big room. Technically, it's just because it's a coincidence that they need to bring some people in to split this room. So I'm not actually that important. I'm just a guy that apparently has a lot of free time on his hands. And I care really a lot for this community. So this is something I'm really passionate about. I want to talk to you about the Qt project then. You might have heard me talking about this before. If you've been to any of my previous presentations before, feel free to go to another one. I'm going to repeat a lot of what I've said before. I'm just trying to get the message out. And in this particular one, for you people here, I know that many of you are commercial customers or have not been involved with the open source development of Qt itself. So I want to talk to you a little about how it works and how the sausage gets made. I know that sometimes if you do see how the sausage gets made, you don't want to eat the sausage. That's actually true for us as well. If you see how we develop, you get a little uneasy about using Qt a little afterwards. But if you do understand it well, then you actually get proud of it. Not proud of the sausage, but proud of Qt. And I'm really hoping to convince some of you to participate. So this is how Qt gets developed. It is an open source project that it is creating also the commercial release. It is creating the full release for everybody. And participation is open to all, hopefully very easily, right? So who is this guy who has a lot of time in his hands? I've been an open source developer for 15 years. I've been told to, instead of writing 15, it's because I have to update it every year, just like write over a decade. And then I only have to change it once it gets to 2 decades. And I have some time until that. I'm now working for Intel, for the Open Source Technology Center. We are about 500 people working exclusively on open source, and we're probably the biggest open source team on any big company on the planet. We're quite proud of that. We have our own website, which is probably the shortest site you're going to find anywhere, except for x.org. This is 01.org. Apparently, the one-letter domains are really hard to get. We got two numbers, sorted alphabetically, probably on the few first as well. I've just moved to Portland. I was living before in Oslo. I really liked Oslo, but now I'm living in Portland, trying to get a bit more of the US team and activities to work into Qt and open source. I'm maintaining 2 modules in Qt. The Qt core module, which is where most of my work actually ends up being. There's a lot of things going on, and if you see my next presentation about the new features, I'm actually going to focus a little on Qt core, mostly because that's what I know. You also might want to skip that because Lars talked a lot about it. So yeah, don't come see me. QtDBus is a really nice module, but fortunately for me, it generates very little support load. I'm a weird guy because I also have an MBA, so I understand a little of business. And I'm the guy who led the open governance project. That means if you've got a problem with the Qt project, I'm the guy to blame. We worked quite a lot for 2 years or a year and a half on the open governance project to make it happen. You might have seen me talking about open governance the previous 2 developer days. We had nice sessions discussing how it should be, talking to people how they wanted to participate before the ideas were fully in our minds. And finally, last year, developer days, we could really talk about not the open governance, but about the Qt project, because Qt project has just become a year old. Yay! So that's our website, QtProject.org. You might want to come see us. If you go there, you're going to see the developer network, which had been online for a long time. That transferred to the Qt project. That's how we interact with both users and our own developer community. And just so you see, Lars showed these numbers before. We had 25,000 commits reviewed and accepted in this 1 year. I need to check my script because I ran it this morning with the same data and I got 30,000. So I need to check again what I did wrong. Either this number is off by 5,000 or my new one is off. This one actually looks more correct, to be honest. That means if you break it down, to get 25,000 commits in, we had 41,000 reviews. That's because often one commit has more than one person saying, yes, this is good, or this is good, but I cannot approve it. Sometimes commit goes in with, I don't really like it, but it's acceptable anyway. And of those 25,000 that got accepted, they came in out of 38,000 that were submitted. That means there are still some that are outstanding that haven't been approved yet. I've got a long list I can show you. Actually, I should have prepared better to show something more interesting. But, and there are also some that have been withdrawn. I counted 451 different people and the 2 bots that are committing. Hopefully they will not develop artificial intelligence anytime soon and start writing code. They are just there for maintenance reasons. They are there to support our infrastructure system. And we've got lots of companies behind us, behind the project. The 2 biggest contributors are Didja and KDAB. So thanks to both of the companies there. RIM is coming up now. They're bringing interesting activities. And yes, when we say Intel, that means me. Yeah. Okay. This is the same contributions graph that Lars showed. That's because we actually did a presentation last week together and we used the same graph. I'm not going to go into it again because he did. Really what's happening, you can see the big activity at the beginning of the year when we were not feature frozen. You know, we developers, we like to work on new stuff, breaking stuff, right? That's actually when we did a lot of activity. Lots of more interesting things going on, new features, testing this, and then it doesn't work, let's work on that. I myself had quite a lot of activity in that beginning of the year. And then the boring part of getting the release out came. You've got the dips there that are, this is really Easter. This one here is the Norwegian 17th of May, when the Oslo office basically shuts down. This is really ELOP, and then we have July vacations. And now we're coming back. We're coming back to what the more or less level should be. Unfortunately, the level will not be that which it was, which was then, you can see, between 400 and 500 commits a week. It's a lot. We're actually probably going to be between 200 and 300 with a few spikes every now and then. We lost a few people during the troubled times we had, which is in turn why I want you, or we want you, to come work with us. Right? We want you to participate, and I'm here to try and show to you how it is easy, how it should be easy for you to get started. I usually talk a lot, and when I get excited, I talk really fast. But if you do have questions, please raise your hand. I actually don't see a camera. I wish weren't we supposed to be filmed? But since the room is quite big, I would ask you to wait for the microphone if you have a question. Okay? But if you do have something, if you want me to repeat something I said, just raise your hand. So why would I want you to participate? The first and simplest reason is just to learn what's going on. You don't have to wait for Dev Days every year to learn about the roadmap. You don't have to wait for Lars to come here upstage and talk about what we're working on for the next year. You can learn from the horse's mouth, if the horse could talk. Yeah, not a good metaphor, actually, right? Horses can't talk. So you can learn what's going on by just joining the project, reading the mailing list. Sometimes it's high volume. Sometimes you get excited about new features or about the way things work or should work. But you see a lot of things going on. You can also subscribe to the activity from our review system in the areas that interest you. So if you're interested, and one of the questions we had was on XML, for example, before in the session, you can subscribe to the activity going on in the XML module and XML classes. So whenever there's new stuff going on, whenever there's a new submission, you just see what's going on, whether it gets approved, whether it got rejected, what people are thinking about. You can also help influence the decisions at that level, both in the mailing list by saying, didn't you think of that? Why don't you do this? Here's a use case you might not have thought of. We have in my company, in my project, we have this need, or we developed that solution instead. So you can always influence the decisions in that way. If you're subscribing to the activity feed, for example, you can also review. You can participate by reviewing from the beginning and say, this looks good, this doesn't, you forgot the documentation, etc. And by doing that, by participating, by sending emails, by saying what you think, by saying what you're considering, what your concerns are, you gain merit. We actually ask you also to produce code if you can. If you're producing code, if you're showing the dedication to the project, you gain even more merit. And by the way, I also talked about producing code, but you can produce other activities. So yesterday we were discussing about marketing. And that's just the same meritocracy principle. We're going to work by trying to work together. And this has nothing to do with producing code, but just helping the project out. But if you do produce code, you can actually add the features you want, the features you need, fix the bugs you need, if you do have the time, if you do have the resources. And if you can't do that, I'm pretty sure that the consulting companies that are around here, the ecosystem, will help you do that. So if you do engage them, for example, please be sure that to ask them to upstream those fixes. And if you're doing that yourself, you can keep the copyright. We're not asking for it, which means that your company gets the benefit of it, or you yourself, if you're not working for a company. Your name is there forever saying, I actually did this. This is me. I'm helping Qt to go really everywhere. Any questions so far? Okay, good. So how did we get here? Before 2009, for those of you who were around back then, we had daily snapshots of the source code. So the repository was inside the Trolltech firewall. We were using actually a different revision control system back then. We were using Perforce. All of this was kept internally. We worked on it at Trolltech, and every day the system produced a snapshot of the changes. So some people, like some friends of mine, actually, or when I was not at Trolltech myself, we took those and tried to do the comparison from one day to the next to see what was going on. It was possible, so you could see the diffs, and from one day to the next, it was kind of understanding that we could understand what was going on. The changes were small enough, most of the time. And if anybody wanted to contribute anything, what we had to do was send a fax to Trolltech with, I'm okay with assigning the copyright to Trolltech for now and forever, which was a bit of a cumbersome process. People don't have faxes anymore. Right? I certainly had a problem doing that. In 2009, after a lot of discussions, we switched to Git, which is what we're using today, and we opened the repository. That means that from that point on, every single commit was available for people to see outside of Trolltech. Not only, we didn't have to guess anymore what that change meant. We could see it because there was a description of it, and we're actually very proud and very picky about writing good descriptions for our commits. Moreover, whenever there is a big feature being merged, if you were just looking at the diff, it's usually like remove everything and add everything again. It's very hard to understand what's going on. With the commits themselves, with the open repository, you could understand what is going on, follow the development. So much so that we actually invited people to contribute back to us via Git commits as well. The model that we chose was the merge request system on Gitorious, which allowed people to produce new commits. Say here, please merge my news thing. I do accept licensing it to Trolltech back then. Sorry, 2009 was already Nokia. And so it no longer was the copyright assignment. It was a much simpler process. It was just a button to click saying, yes, I do accept licensing this. And then it should work. Unfortunately, it didn't. It didn't because it was kind of a, I'm going to get into it in the next slide, but it was kind of clumsy. So we started the open governance discussions 2010. That's why we had 2 developer days where we're talking about it, 2010, 2011, how to do these things. And then last year, we launched. The Qt project is quite different from the contribution model because the contribution model was really quite clumsy. It was a different process for those outside Nokia from those inside. Those outside did not have actually the right to commit. They had to they depended on those inside to accept. Only those inside had that power, and those inside had different goals. It wasn't the same process. So how many of you are developers here? You know that you get in the zone, right? You arrive in the morning, you're a bit tired, you get your coffee, and then you start working, and then all of a sudden, yes, I'm actually productive, right? That's what you call being in the zone. You understand this is, you're in the code, somebody comes, no, come later, I'm about to fix this bug, I'm about to finish these. Do you get the feeling? I do. Thank you, some other people do. The process was different, which meant that you had to step out of your daily workflow and work on something different. It also had a slight problem, which was that if you got somebody else's contribution and tried to merge it in, and it failed because of testing, you were actually responsible for fixing it later. So people were understandably not willing to work too much on other people's code. And more importantly, this was not the model we wanted. So when I joined Trolltech in 2006, we were already discussing how to do reviews properly. We wanted, and we've always wanted, peer-reviewed code with fully tested automation. And that wasn't there yet. Back in 2009, 2010, that wasn't it. So what we did was, both at the same time, investigate how to do an open project and install that infrastructure we wanted. We looked at a couple of projects, how to do this. You know that many of us actually come from the KDE family. We were KDE developers before we became Qt developers working in many of the companies around. So yes, of course, we did look at KDE to see what the community looked like. Personally, what we really liked about KDE was the flat structure. There is really no one that has more power than the other. So we want this flat structure, this community of people who are basically equals, and it gets done. But we also thought that we did need a bit of a structure, so we couldn't have completely flat. And more importantly, because we want to attract commercial development, we looked at 2 projects that are very successful with commercial development, with companies behind them, which are many of them competitors between themselves. That's Linux and WebKit. I mean, just think of WebKit. We have there Apple and Samsung. And you know these 2 are not the best of friends right now, right? And that's an understatement. So we talked to a lot of people. We had the discussions in the open on how to do the open project. So we called the open governance project how the step to creating the Qt project. We came up with these 4 principles. I'm going to go over them in detail, so just quite quickly what they are. Fair means that we're fair to everybody based on their skills, that you can come and work with us. We're not going to hold anything against you, especially not the company you work for. You're your own person. We're going to accept you the way you come. We're inclusive, meaning that we go out and seek people. We want them to participate in the project as opposed to working outside and doing your own stuff, and then we suddenly come and see you. Just as an example, we go after the Linux distributions to bring their contributions in instead of keeping their own repositories. We're transparent in the sense that we make decisions in the open. We want everybody to see what's going on. We're not ashamed of what we do, but more importantly, there's nothing behind closed doors. And the number one, I mean, they're all equal, but the one I really like the most is the meritocratic fashion. The way we work, it is that you gain the merit based on your skills, your contribution to the project. So how is it, the meritocracy? You might have seen this pyramid last year. It's the same one. I think we lost the original, which means that we're just copying the PNG over and over again. Looks my next slide is broken. The way it works is that we have 4 levels here, but just these 2 are the important ones. Contributors are everybody and anybody who wants to contribute. Not just code, any kind of contribution. If you want to participate in any way, you can. You're a contributor from the moment you decide to be a contributor. You don't have to pay any fees. You don't have to join an association. You don't have to do anything you don't want to. Of course, there are legal matters in place. If you're working for a company, you need to ask for permission from their company. You cannot contribute code that you don't own if you don't have the permission to. And since we are still creating commercial releases, and we also have a duty to the KDE Free Qt Foundation, we actually ask you for a license to that code. So this is the only legal matter that needs to come in. If you're contributing code, we need the license for that code for us to use it. And contributors are everybody and anybody who wants to contribute. You create an account, you immediately can say yes or no. You can say this looks good to me, this doesn't look good to me. But you cannot actually approve a contribution. The approval is the second level here. These are the people who have, for some time, shown their dedication to the project. They have shown that they are making the right decisions, right? So from this point here, we ask you to start reviewing. Look at other people's contributions, even your own colleagues, and say, this looks good, this doesn't look good, improve here, this looked fine, but maybe you should think of that as well. All of these things you can do from the point you're a contributor. And once you've shown your dedication, you become an approver. Very easy process. All you have to do is ask for it to be nominated. You talk to an existing approver who will nominate, and then a second approver says, yes, he actually should be an approver. If no one objects, we get there. This is why I said this slide is broken. This was supposed to be just graying out. It became worse. So let's skip this slide. What I wanted to show is that only the first 2 levels are. This is the way that we scale. There's a lot of contributors and approvers. The maintainers have to do actually very little because they have a duty. So the maintainers, they have a duty to the project. They have to understand what's going on in the area that they participate in, that they are maintainer for. So they need to ensure that everything that is coming in their area gets reviewed. That means that when I'm looking at Qt Core, need to make sure that everybody that submitted anything there got a fair review. And if nobody else could review because, I don't know, they're on vacation, nobody knows about this area anymore, then I have to do it. I have to take the time to do it myself. It means I have a duty to the project. I need to ensure that the quality is good of that area because I'm the ultimate responsible for my code base. And if the QA guys who are trying to do the beta now come and say your module is broken on Windows, on Mac, or something else, then I'm responsible for getting that fixed, either by doing it myself or going bug the contributor who introduced that particular change that was causing problems. And I need to ensure that the rules are followed. I'll go back into the rules in a second. Of course, with that, we get a little more right. We have the right to set direction. We have the right to say, in my module, we want to do these things in the next year. This is the direction we want to go as opposed to that other particular thing. And we have the right to override denials and approvals so that things go into that direction. The chief maintainer, that is Lars, He's just like the maintainer of everything. So he has the right to set direction for everything, but at the same time, he's the one that the QA team is always bugging about. When are we going to release? Is this thing working? Why don't you get that maintainer in line, etc. Any questions so far? Yes, if it's quick. Yeah. Otherwise, I'll get you mine.
Could you give us some numbers? How many? Yeah, all right. Could you give us some numbers? How many people are on each level of the pyramid? Obviously, at the top there's one, but at the next levels.
I actually don't get, that's a very good question. I don't have the stats. I can ask the admins to produce that. We do have something around 3,000 to 4,000 accounts. That's the total number of everybody, so contributors and up. We do have maintainers should be around 50 between different ports and different functionalities and different modules, maybe less. And approvers, I'm gonna guess around 150. This is educated guessing. I'm not sure exactly the numbers. But with 150 approvers, we're actually scaling. We are able to produce code, to review, and get it in. We do have a lack of maintainers in a few areas. So when we had a question about a module today and Lars had to say nobody's actually maintaining that, that's because we're missing some people in some particular areas. That in turn means that it's very easy for somebody who is interested about that to become a maintainer because we actually need you, right? Approvers themselves, I don't think we have a lack, but we don't have a limit to approvers. If a person is dedicated and has shown that they should be an approver, we should make them an approver. For maintainers, however, we have the need, right? So somebody needs to be a maintainer. We need to find the maintainer for that. We're not going to create a maintainer position just to elevate somebody from some company in status. We're not going to do that. Maintainers only if we need to maintain code or module or port. Did this answer the question?
Yeah, just one at all.
Yeah.
Only to keep you running.
Sure.
No. I assume there are some contributors who have the role of approvers too, yeah? I think,
yes.
Is there a system of mutual replacement, or can someone just approve his own code?
Very good question as well. Thank you. Can somebody approve their own code? We ask not to. So we ask people to get somebody else's approval. So sometimes I find myself in the problem that I'm submitting something where nobody else knows it, and I'm actually responsible, since I'm the maintainer, for approving my own things. We don't like that. We like peer review.
But it happens.
It happens very seldom. Very seldom does somebody have to approve their own things. We call those trust me's. So if you're going to do it, it should be small, and you should be really, really sure about it. Like, build broke, I'm going to fix on this platform. These we can accept. We'd like not to. So we actually ask people, drop on IRC, ask somebody else to come and say, this is good, this is not, even if they're simple. Because often people don't realize that they make mistakes. I remember this one case when I was still at Trolltech. We already had peer reviews, and even peer reviewed, this was this one guy who he was reviewing some old API, and he wanted to add the comment ###Qt5 fix me, and he did. And he asked me, can you review? And I said, hey, just the fix me, go ahead, right? And we realized after he committed it that he forgot the / to mean a comment. So he broke the build. So small things can create problems, and it's actually very often that the small things are the ones that, yeah, this is fine. They introduce problems. The big hairy ones, they get tested. This is why we require peer review. But a good question, how do you review? We ask that you follow these two groups of questions, right? Technical fit and spirit fit. The way it works is the technical fit is objective decisions. They are usually quantifiable. Has it passed the documentation review, because now we have a bot that says you introduced documentation warnings or you removed documentation warnings. Does it build? Because if it doesn't build, you're going to stop it. And we have the CI system to make sure that it does. If you're introducing a new feature, was the API reviewed? Is this following the coding style? Does it introduce new symbols in a patch release? So all of these technical rules that are very easy to quantify, we call them the technical fit. The spirit fit is subjective, right? It is something that, I won't say gut feeling, but it is the experience of the developer, of the approver, that is looking at it and saying, this is the right time to do this, this is the right way to do this, this is taking you in the right direction, the direction that the maintainers and the chief maintainer have said we should be going in. So all of these are subjective, and we trust people to make the right decision. Something I didn't say before is that when you become an approver, you become an approver for all of Qt. We don't compartmentalize. We ask people to use their better judgment in what they approve. So, for example, I'm not very well versed in the graphical stuff. I'm the command line guy. So I'm not really going to go and review stuff in the Qt Quick module, because I'm not sure exactly if the technical decisions are right and if we're doing things the right way. I don't know this, so I'm not going to review that. But I can. If I had to do a build fix, for example, I could. If I had to approve, I could. So I'm just restraining myself because I'm not able to answer these questions. And we ask people to do the same. And of course, if you abuse that right, we can revoke the approvership. With that, we have the transparency. All the decisions are in the mailing list. I said there are no decisions behind closed doors. Nothing is hidden. If you think that you see something that wasn't talked about, it's because people didn't feel that it was important enough to post, but you can always bring it up. So the way it works is that face-to-face discussions are permitted. We had yesterday a few very good discussions, but whenever we do have that, whenever we talk to somebody out of the mailing list, be it face-to-face, be on an IRC, on a conference call, etc., we want people to post that decision to the mailing list. It's actually not a decision, it's a proposal. It's only a decision after the mailing list has had the time to review it and object if necessary. I'm not talking this about pedantism, it's just that sometimes people have new insights. This is why we ask people to join the mailing list if you have anything. If you have new use cases we didn't think about, if you have new problems, if you have a platform that most people do not have access to, it's important that you're there so that we can hear your contribution there. We can take them into account. And you, of course, get the right to have your say before the decision is made. If you go back to the meritocracy, of course, the people who have the merit get to say more and get to be listened to more. But we want to listen to everybody. We want to build consensus. We prefer consensus as opposed to having to have something top-down. So yes, we do have face-to-face meetings. The contributor summits we've run twice now. The first one was here in Café Moscow last year, and we do have the contributor days. So these are the Brazilians. I'm there, right? You can see me here. This is me here, right? We was here at Café Moscow, and that picture on the top left was yesterday. We were discussing what to do for the build system. So yes, we do have face-to-face meetings, and everybody's invited. Except, of course, for the contributor summit, we cannot have 1,000 people show up because we wouldn't have enough lunch boxes for everybody. So what we do is that we ask people to come to show why they should be here. If you're contributing, we're probably going to accept you. If you're an unknown, then please start contributing the mailing list first. If you show that you want to be there. I talked a lot about contributing. So how do you contribute? It's actually very simple. You follow these 12 steps. They are on the wiki. You can just follow them. There are no ladders that you fall if you, no, sorry. Let's get to the easier one. It's actually very simple. The way it works is that you create a contribution on your system. You will make your own changes, make sure that it's working. You compile on your system, compile on multiple systems if you have access to, and then you upload it to Gerrit, the system that we have online. I'm going to show you in a second. And then you ask for review. We can enter that cycle there, which is the cycle of approval, right? It is the cycle of update, fix a comment that somebody asked of you, and improve, upload again, up until we're satisfied this is good, and then we click a button and it goes in. The CI system takes over. What the CI system, the continuous integration system, does is that it takes that commit plus a couple of others, because we don't have the capacity to do one by one, test them on a couple of platforms, several platforms, runs all the tests. And then only if all the tests pass, no regressions were introduced, does it accept and put us merged. Which in turn means that for you who are using Qt, you're satisfied that we're not introducing regressions, or at least not many. If you've worked with unit tests, you know that we cannot catch everything. They're just a good indicator of whether you're in the right direction. Unit tests are a great foundation. Of course, they aren't enough. This is why we have a release process.
How often is the CI running?
How often the CI is running? It's running all the time. The way it works is that as long as there is anything queued for integration, we call that staged. If there's anything staged, it will take that and move to integrating phase, test, and then when it's over, it says so. The process takes about 3 hours, which means that per day we have 8 attempts per day, more or less, 7 to 8 attempts per day. That means in the worst case scenario, the moment that you click integrate, it will take up to 6 hours for you to get a pass or fail. It's not about getting to the merge window, it is that it's running all of the time. If you're developing on weekends, which sometimes I do, you actually get a lot more throughput because nobody else is using the system. If you're doing during the day, especially during European business hours, when the people here in Berlin or in Oslo are actually also pushing commits, often what we get is somebody else broke the build and your fix didn't make in because of that. If you do realize that, you can just go and click again the button, because it wasn't my fault, right? So just push it again. Let me show you how. Right? This is supposed to be the live contribution demo. Let's see how we're on time. We have
22 more minutes, including questions.
22 including questions. So this will be a short demo. Okay, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to open my browser and go to code review. Right? You go to codereview.qtproject.org. This is my dashboard. Unfortunately, it's not really made for 1024. I don't know if it's big enough for you, but what I have here at the top are my own submissions. And you can see here that some of them have been approved. Some of them have been rejected, saying, no, do not submit this, or for whatever reason. Some of them have comments saying improve. And then I have the ones that I have been requested to participate. And people request my opinion quite a lot. Let's find something near the bottom. The problem is that everybody is here, so there are no new things. Okay, let's take this one, right? Konstantin is asking for my opinion. What we have so far, we have from the top right, we have what he's doing and who is working. So I look at it and I say, see, for example, that Eskil, and you can go talk to him downstairs, has already said that this is good. The tick mark means approved. This is good. Whereas Konstantin himself said no. He's actually blocking his own integration. So if you're going to read the comment seeing why did he do that, he says the failed test uncovered a special case which it probably had not seen. Right? So what happens here is that what we found out is that this test system produced, I'm going to increase the font here so you can see it better, produced the test result. It showed a problem. So Konstantin, who had created this contribution, he realized, oh wait, there was something I hadn't thought of. The test system caught it, and now he needs to improve it. So how do we do this is that he was going to create a new contribution and send it. I can review it if I wanted to. I just click, for example, on the button here to say, just for example, click here. And then I get the text I can review. I can click here and make my own comment, right? And he'll receive that. I'm not going to say this nonsense. And if I were done, right, I would just, you can go on. There's keyboard shortcuts, etc. And at the end, let me show you here, you get this box that you can select what to do. So I'm an approver. I'm actually a maintainer. I get the +2 and -2, meaning approved, this is good, or bad, I don't want this. Or if you're not an approver, you automatically get the two middle ones, right? You get +1 and -1. You can come and say, this looks good to me. I don't have the power to approve, but it does look good to me. And we'll pay attention because afterwards, when we're trying to decide whether you're a good person to be an approver, we're going to see whether you've done contributions, you've been approving or suggesting approvals in the right direction.
One question?
Yes. It's just in front of you.
I would like to know if this is now not approved and is not another contribution. Is this related to this one or is it a new one?
So if you need to improve this contribution, right? This is the question. How is it related or not?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so let's see that. I can go back to the original. I press the letter U here for up this. Just click this one, it's easier. So what you see here is that this contribution has 3 submissions. So he sent the first one, and then for whatever reason he sent the second one, and then he sent the third one. The third one was approved and tested and failed. So what he's going to do is that he now needs to submit the fourth one up until we're all satisfied and the continuous integration system is satisfied. Nobody in the Qt project has push rights. Nobody can override the system. You need to get it tested and passed, otherwise it doesn't go in. This is very simple. Can you just, thank you.
How feasible is it to run those tests locally without having to push it first to the integration system?
It's supposed to be easy to run them locally. You can just go into the tests directory and run make check. Unfortunately, some variations in the systems mean that it doesn't work completely. For example, the network tests require you to have a virtual machine running the network test server. The network test server is available for you. So we have a set of Puppet scripts that install everything for you and let you run the virtual machine. So it is possible. But sometimes different versions mean different things. On Linux, for example, we have a problem with fonts, right? Whether your system has the same fonts as the system is expecting. So sometimes things are slightly bigger than the others and tests fail because they don't match. But most of the tests do pass, and when you're creating a contribution, you can test before and test after, and you realize, I didn't introduce this one, so it's probably not my fault, and the test system will accept it.
How does this test system get updates, and who is responsible for it? Do you also have the reviews for the test cases?
Yes, very good question. Actually in 2 parts. The test infrastructure itself right now is run by Digia. It was run by Nokia. So they're actually investing a lot of money to keep this system running. But it's open. We're now working with RIM and KDAB to introduce QNX testing outside of that farm. So the way it was supposed to work is that it is a federated way of running tests. There is a central place that coordinates, a central coordinator, that dispatches to a lot of systems that then report back pass or fail, right? When all of them say pass, that means go in. If one of them says fail, then it distributes the order saying don't bother, it's already failed, and we go on to the next one. The tests themselves are parts of the commit. Let's see if Konstantin did the right thing. Not on this one. Let's see, for example, mine here. I'm pretty sure that I have tests. Can you read this? So whenever I'm committing something, and we actually ask for people, whenever you're fixing a bug, whenever you're introducing a new feature, whenever you're making changes, update the tests. And we really are quite picky in terms of new bug fixed, old bug fixed, new test case. Sometimes we can't, right? So how can I test that the system, that we're importing the right configuration from the system proxies? Quite hard because we can't modify the system to verify that we got the right information. So on those, we actually make an exception saying it cannot be tested. But most cases do test that it works, at least that it compiles, that all the functions called do produce something. The test, for example, on network IP addresses. Each machine has its own, so I cannot hard code anything. But all of them have localhost, so I can at least test that the machines, that the API gets that one address. Okay? So let me go on, otherwise we might run out of time. I can close this and bring back my presentation. I said about the test system, and like I said, unit tests are not enough. We do have a release process because we are very picky, more picky even than the test is making a release. So yes, you see that we wanted the Qt 5.0 by summer, we didn't get it. It's because we are actually trying to get something of real good quality out. But at the same time, we cannot delay forever. So what we're doing is this hybrid time and quality-based approach. The time factor is in when we do the feature freeze. So this arrow here, until the next arrow that should come here afterwards, should be more or less 6 months. It's a date well known in advance that we know that if my feature I want it in the next release, I need to finish it and get it integrated by that date. It's known in advance. That way I know I'm prepared for it. And nobody should rush it. So make sure that it's correct, that it's implemented, that it is well tested. Because if you miss it, the next one is coming soon after, right? And then after that, it becomes quality-based. After that, we do a lot of testing. We create packages, we test, we create packages, we test again, run the examples, run the demos, try to compile creator against it. Once KDE exists for Qt 5, we test that one as well, make sure that we didn't break anything. That is a lot of time-consuming process to make sure that the release that comes to you is of good quality. Sometimes, for example, we take an existing application, even a commercial one, we replace the Qt that is inside with our version and run the application again just to see if it still works, if we didn't break anything. And this is the process to get the release out. And of course, we have lots of other activities. Like I said, we do marketing together now. We're trying to, at least. Yesterday, we were discussing how do we do that in terms of event participation, our social media accounts and forums, right? Before, we could say, yeah, Nokia does it, or even before that, Trolltech does it, and we're all happy with it. Now the things are different. It is the Qt project, but the Qt project is this abstract thing, and we are the Qt project. We are the community part of the Qt project. And it's all a meritocracy. How do we organize ourselves in order to do this, in order to work together to improve Qt? There are many thankless tasks like running the bug tracker, keeping things running. The sysadmin team definitely needs help, so that's something you can contribute to if you have people who can participate. was it successful? Was the Qt project successful? I think so. I actually think that we were quite good. We survived the Nokia storm, let's put it this way, and we're still here. We're running Developer Days, right? And this is the first time that Developer Days is not run by one single company. We're actually being co-hosted by KDAB, Digia, and ICS. So this is a joint effort. This is really what the Qt project is about. People and companies coming together to make a better toolkit, a better solution for us all. We released several Qt versions in this year that we're here. Of course, I mean, we had to learn a few things. How do we make releases? How do we do not depend on Nokia infrastructure, which we no longer have access to? So there were some bumps on the road, but we're here. We released 4.8.1, 4.8.2, 4.8.3, and the 5 alphas and betas. And let me give you one more success case. The 4 base libraries have maintainers from 4 different companies. So this is no longer about one company. It's I mean, before it was everything was Trolltech and then everything was Nokia. And then as time went by, you can see that the other companies started to get to participate and take over some of the responsibilities. You have 4, the most base libraries for desktop applications, at least when we're talking about widgets, they are from 4 different companies. They are investing these companies time of their engineers to make things better. And if you go on to the other modules, you see more of KDAB, you see more of Digia. Unfortunately, yeah, you see one more of Intel, but that's also the same person, that's me. And I'd like to see more. Like Lars said in his keynote, there are some areas that need maintainers. I'd like to see here next year to show more module names with more company logos. Right? This is what I had to say. You can always contact me by email. Don't forget our website for the Qt project. This is the second link. The list is how you join the mailing lists, how you participate and get to post. Subscription is open. You're welcome at any time that you want. And if you want to leave because it's just too much traffic, no problem. Code review, like I said, is available, and we're also on IRC most of the time for questions. If you want to ask us more, if you want to interact with the developers about a fix, if you're trying to do something, the build doesn't work, hop on IRC, we're able to help you. With that, do we have more questions? There's one in the back.
Yeah, Thiago, could you comment that one of the announcements this morning was about adding BlackBerry 10 as a Tier 1 platform. Can you comment on how that decision was taken, and you know, how would further platform decisions be taken within the project?
Thank you for the question. Actually, during that set, like as Lars was saying, I was writing the slide to answer that question in my next session, but I will answer that now as well. When he said adding BlackBerry or adding Android or iOS as Tier 1, that is a statement of intent. Right? We cannot guarantee that anything goes in, because if suddenly the team decides let's not do this, it will not happen. Another reason is that the Qt project will require commitment and quality before it calls anything Tier 1. So the way it works, the way a platform becomes Tier 1 is that there needs to be a team behind it, developing it, making sure that the test cases pass. We also hope that this platform is running part of the continuous integration system. I know that KDAB is working right now with RIM to get BlackBerry in, tested all of the time. All of the commits should be tested and producing reports pass or fail. They need to be part of that release process I talked about. They need to be taking the package, testing it, running it. Did they break my applications? Did it break my packaging? Did my closed source applications, which I cannot show you the source code, break? And if so, here's why. Here's the bug report. right? Once that is there, once a platform has participated in a release process and fixed the bugs, we call it tier 1. So it's the other way around. The tier 1 is a label that is given to a platform that has done the quality testing. If he has done some quality and hasn't passed it all, we call it tier 2. Does that answer the question? Thank you.
If you have a contribution, do you have to add it for both 4.8 and for 5.0? And another question, if there's a relation with a change in the documentation due to the AP change, how is that handled?
Yeah, good questions, good questions. From 4.8 to 5.0 and vice versa, unfortunately the system is manual. Because of the new repositories, because of the way we organized Qt 5, that needs to be done manually. So what we ask for is that people get it into Qt 5, approved and tested. Once that it is in, we go and put it into Qt 4.8. So it's actually a manual process. Most of the important bug fixes are being done that, unfortunately not all. Once we go from 5.0 to 5.1 and so forth, then the process is simpler because we will have the automated infrastructure to do this. The way it should work is the fix is applied to the oldest version that it makes sense to do so. So if we're running right now 5.2, the next release is 5.2. We have 5.1 as a stable. The most bug fixes should go into 5.1 and the system automatically merges them up to 5.2. So you're guaranteed that you have both of them. Now, if you have a very serious issue, like a security issue, that applies to older versions, we go and apply to them all as well. The documentation, like the unit tests, are part of the commits. They are together in the same package, in the same source code. So if you're adding a new feature, we are going to request documentation for it, testing for it, API review for it, before it should be approved. Did this answer the question? Maybe one more, or are we out of time?
We can take one more question if there's one.
No?
Okay. Thank you so much, Thiago.